Mr. Attorney, do you need to state that again for the record?
Let the record again reflect, Mr. Chairman, this notice has also been noticed, this meeting has been noticed in accordance with Chapter 11 of the Public Laws of 2020, as well as all other requirements regarding the notification and ability to participate in this virtual electronic meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right. So first on the list is our amendment, or an amendment to the 2020-2021 introduced authority budget. Joe, can you give a brief explanation as to what that is?
Okay, so we have 3 budgetary amendments tonight. The first one is to amend a page in the budget, which we know as C5. I'm just bringing that up. C5 had some amendments that were required by the state, and this just amends what we introduced to you on C5 previously.
Okay. And that changes.
C5 had a numerical error.
Okay.
There was a 50,000. Well, actually, I'm sorry. C5 had 3. I caught the modification number 1 was a date typo. Modification number 2 was a $50,000 Brian forgot to put in for paving Brookline. And then they want the $500,000 that we appropriated to potentially give to this township. They wanted us to take from unrestricted net position, thus increasing our unrestricted net position utilization from 0 to 500,000.
Okay. So with that, again, as a reminder, the $50,000 is just a carryover that was previously agreed upon to split the cost of paving Brookline with the Franklin Township Water Department, instead of us having to pay roughly $100,000 to pave the road. So this is actually a cost savings to the authority, and we didn't have to delay finishing the Somerset Street pump station.
Mr. Chairman, I believe, and Mr. Danielson, these amendments did not require a public notice or a budget hearing on the amendments themselves, correct, Mr. Danielson?
That is correct.
Right, so therefore the board, when it conducts its public hearing on the adoption later in the meeting, it will be on the entire budget, including amendment.
Okay. So with that, are there any questions about the amendment to that page, or to that portion of the introduced budget? Seeing or hearing none, is there a motion to approve the amendment as proposed to the introduced authority budget?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. With that, roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yeah.
Ms. Ford? Ms. Ford?
Teresa, you're on mute. Or frozen.
He's frozen.
Come back to her.
Mr. Tawari? Mr. Tawari?
I can hardly hear you sometimes. I think I get cut up.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tawari?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Tawari?
Yes. Okay, good. Thank you.
Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. All right, the next item I have on the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for you. Since I'm a non-voting alternate, was it okay that I seconded that motion?
Mr. Attorney?
I didn't realize Mr. Schmidt made that second. There should be somebody else making the second.
So we need to second and do the vote again, I presume?
No, I think we can manage to not do the vote again if we get an appropriate second.
I second it.
Who was
All
that,
right.
that
Ms.
second?
Ford. Ms. Ford,
All right, and can we confirm who made the motion? First,
Commissioner
officer?
Mr. Embarrassed.
I did.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chairman, I have a point of inquiry before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
This might be directed to April and the attorney. On our working agenda here, number 5 and number 6, we're voting on the amended the introduction budget and the amended budget, but we also are voting on further down the agenda resolutions that do the same. Are both needed?
No,
Excuse me?
no,
All right, because just for clarity again, number 5 on our meeting agenda, amendment to the 2020-21 introduced authority budget, would coincide with resolution, the first on the list, resolution -6.
Okay.
Amending P5.
then in reality, Mr. Chairman, the amendment should be substituted as the 0707 2020-6 will be substituted for the purposes of the amendment.
Okay.
And will not need, and by the way, the same applies to zeros. We're gonna need a second resolution apparently to address the further introduced budget that is 0707 2020-7.
And I can explain what that does when you're ready.
Okay, so that's next on my agenda, so let's go on to that item then.
Okay. Commissioners, this resolution is basically amending the entire budget. Since we did, we had to do 2 things. We had an operating deficit of $1,111,387 that the state would allow us to present a budget and deficit. So we had to move that amount of money from unrestricted net position to our balance sheet. That, in addition to the $500,000 previously voted on in the other resolution, the $500,000, both come out of unrestricted net position and are put on our balance sheet, giving us an operational amount of $1,611,387 to our budget. So this is amending the budget in that respect.
Okay.
So why are the net total appropriations down?
I'm sorry, what?
Why are the net total appropriations down?
Stand by. Just give me 1 minute. I have to bring up the Excel sheet for that. Also, what the answer is, if anyone wants to follow along, I'm pretty sure that there's the numbers coming off page F1. That's Foxtrot 1. Okay. So that's a good question. Hold on. Let me just verify that. 1258. Okay, so the 1.6 million does not go towards our total net appropriations. If it were to go into it, it would be above 14.1 million. It's not considered part of our net total appropriation. And those are spreadsheets that have locked formulas in them.
Okay.
You can't modify it anyway. So all this
Joe, are
resolution,
you projecting a screen?
It's not.
hold on, I will now, hold on. You see at the bottom left, you see that 1.6 million?
No. I don't see it. I don't know where you are.
All the
Yes.
way down, the commissioners, all the way down on the first column at the bottom, it says less. The number is 14,198,187, less $1,611,387, bringing us to a total of $12,586,800. The resolution is slightly off the number, but that's the net number.
The big number is 14.1 million, but then they take out the 1.1 that we're using to operate this year, and then the 500,000 that we're appropriating for the town.
So shouldn't the net total appropriation in the resolution, Joe, be $14,198,187?
No, because the state says it's got to be that 12,586.
No, talking about, if you're looking at 07/07/2020-7, from and to.
That's 7. Okay.
For those of you who are looking for the resolution, it's buried in the resolutions.
I got it.
It says net of 13,698,187. Shouldn't that be 14,198,187 by an additional $500,000?
I don't believe so. This is what the state handed us.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yes, we've gone back and forth with them.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, this is also going to require an adoption before we go to the public hearing on the budget.
The line titled Total Net Appropriations.
The number's right on the total net appropriation.
I mean,
1,586.
here in that document, there's no way around it.
Okay, all right.
So with that, if there are no questions about this adjustment, we would need a motion to approve.
This resolution 07/07/2020-7.
Yes. This is specifically for that resolution.
Correct.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who's the second?
Graham?
Commissioner Patterson.
Hey.
Thank you.
Chairman, if
Well-
you want to hear the last budgetary resolution, even though we're jumping ahead on the agenda.
No, well, we need to vote on this first. So roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Barrington?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yeah.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tewari?
Yes.
And Chairman
Yes.
Galtieri?
Yes.
I heard you. Thank you. And
There's-
Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. Just be aware, Mr. Tewari has a slight lag, so he says yes, and then the volume comes through, so we can see him speaking though.
Okay, thank you.
Moving along. So let me find my resolution.
Public comment.
Okay, is this public for the board meeting or public for the budget?
Public for the budget. Public for the board. This is public for the board.
Okay. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public comments for the board meeting?
Motion.
Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor of opening the meeting for public comments, say aye.
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 Okay, anybody opposed? Okay, do we have any public on the call that we're aware of? I don't see anybody. Okay, with that, is there a motion to close the meeting for public comments?
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so that was Commissioner Barrison and then Commissioner DeVoe. All those in favor of closing the meeting for public comments, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Moving along. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda will require another public hearing. This is ostensibly a motion to open to the public.
Okay.
Comments related to the adoption of the 2020-2021 authority budget, read by title, as amended by the authority earlier this evening.
Is there a motion to open the meeting to public comment specifically for the proposed 2020-21 authority budget?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of opening the meeting?
Roll call.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Berenson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tewari?
Yes.
Received. Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. Okay. Seeing no public and no additional callers, is there a motion to close the public hearing for public comments for the proposed 2020-21 authority budget?
Motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Berenson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tewari?
Yes.
Received. Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. All right, with that, I see next on the list is approval of the budget. So this would correlate, I assume, to resolution number 0707-2020-14 to adopt the 2020-2021 budget in title only. Is that correct, Mr. Attorney? And
By title only, as amended by 0707-2020-6 and 0707-2020-7.
okay. With that, is there a motion to adopt the 2020-2021 authority budget as amended by those two previous resolutions in title only?
No, reading by title only.
By reading by title only, not that we're approving just the title of the budget.
Otherwise, you'd have to read every line.
Please don't make me do that. It's a long budget.
And if you look at this resolution, these have the other numbers that Eric brought up, of the total appropriations and accumulated deficit of $1,198,187. So it's that number minus our total net appropriations that brings us to that 12 million mark.
Okay, with that, is there a motion to approve? Is there a motion to approve? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Berenson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tewari? And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes.
Yes.
And then can we just confirm who made the motion and who seconded?
Second was Ms. DeVoe. I believe the motion was Mr. Barrison.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
On motions and seconds that the member of the board was making them, please identify themselves.
Okay, let's, yes, can we please do that moving forward? That'll help us move the meeting along so everybody can enjoy their nice summer evening. All right. Moving along, has everybody had a chance to review the working session monthly board meeting minutes from June 2nd, 2020? Are there any questions, corrections, clarifications needed? I will take that as a no. With that, is there a motion to approve the working session monthly board meeting minutes from June 2nd, 2020?
Motion.
So moved.
All right, I have
Motion
the
Ford.
vote. Okay. And Commissioner
second.
Ford. All right. With that, roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Berenson,
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe,
Yes.
Ms. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Tewari,
Yes.
and Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. All right, next time on my list, I have that we will continue to hold off on approving the executive session minutes until we hopefully can meet in person in the near future.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
I think this is for Mr. Bernstein. Page 20, it says, Mr. Bernstein said all have been provided rice notices, and I don't know what it stands for.
A rice notice, Commissioner, is a notice that is required to be given. It is related to a case known as Rice versus Union County Regional Board of Education. It is a 1978 appellate division case, which requires a public entity to give a notice to all individuals who will be discussed in executive session or closed session relative to personnel matters, the option to have a discussion regarding their individual item to be either in public at their discretion or in executive session if they do not exercise same. So in order to discuss an individual, you have to give them ostensibly what is known as a rice notice.
What does rice stand for, the actual word?
Rice, just like the grain, it is the name of a plaintiff in a lawsuit that was brought back in 1977, 1978, and they are now euphemistically referred to as rice notices.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Not a problem.
All right. Moving on, professional, so again, approval of the minutes for executive session will be on hold until hopefully we can meet in person in the near future and get out of this nightmare of a pandemic. Moving on to executive summary, professional reports. Mr. Danielson, lead the way, please.
Thank you, Chairman. And for the convenience of the board members, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because most of all of us have been following along with these projects. The most important thing is all these projects are in the green category, and they're being managed by two of the greatest engineering firms you'll ever run across. Marcy Street's moving along. They have CME is managing this project, and they have responded to all the engineering, design, and finance comments, and those are being reviewed. And we plan to have authorized to advertise. I believe, Joe, you could correct me. Early July, we're expecting that. Maybe
yes, that's what we're pursuing that with the department reviewer at this time.
Okay, we discussed this project specifically with the engineer and council, and we're looking at a possible bid date of October, maybe September. We don't want to rush it, and we don't want to delay it, and we're looking at a comfortable date to give the bidders enough time to put an accurate, reasonable bid together without any unnecessary delay. Would you agree with that, Joe?
Yes, that's correct. There may be an opportunity to have a special meeting in September if that works out date-wise. Otherwise, it will be the October meeting.
Okay. If no one has any questions, I'm gonna go on to the next one, which is Hamilton Street, which is also in the green category. I believe we're in the process of connecting the water service. There's two ways, one from the town to the curb, the other is from the building to the curb, our property. Exterior improvements, roofing's completed, electrical components, panels are installed, the plumbing is generally completed. Emergency being stored on the inside temporarily for security reasons. The trench work, the preparatory work has begun. PSCG has given approval for a temporary support of the gas line. They did test pits to confirm the gas line location. I believe the trench digging has begun. Is that right, Joe?
Today.
That's correct. This morning, they started that work. That was up on Hamilton and Hawthorne.
Okay. And on June 18th, we had a construction meeting regarding this project, and everybody was in concurrence with the project as it is today. If anyone has any questions, I'm going to go on to the next one. Somerset Street Pump Station. We did talk about this at the professionals meeting. Most of it involved Eric Bernstein. It's green. It's a matter of just closing this account out with the contractor. We know bills are pending to be received from the contractor to us, but we've been waiting and asking for months. They have not been received by the authority. But we did talk about, and I'm not going to repeat it here, we talked about what do we do next. Eric has some excellent ideas, and should we get to that point, we'll take action. And that was also in concurrence with Howard from CDM, who's managing that project and doing a great job. If none of the commissioners have any questions, I'm going to move on to the next project, which is also in the green category and being managed by CDM. They have submitted their 60% design report. It was reviewed by Scott Nacero, who then returned comments of it. CDM is in the process of reviewing Scott's comments and will reply. If you haven't already, we'll reply very soon. CDM is in the process of preparing the draft front-end documents, and the geotech boring was completed. And I believe we're, Howard, you can correct me if I'm wrong, are we still waiting for the results of that, of the boring and engineering review of that data?
We have that, and the structural engineers are using that for the structural design. So we can submit the geotechnical report to you guys. It'll also be bound in with the specifications for the bidders' purposes.
Okay. If none of the commissioners have any questions, I'm going to move on to the next and the last project, which is the High Bay Garage, also in the green category and also being managed by CDM. All we have to report so far is the geotech boring was completed. We do not have the data yet. And the 30% preliminary design report is in progress and near complete and should be completed by July 10th. Am I correct, Howard?
That's correct.
Okay. That concludes my summary report, Chairman. If any of the commissioners have any questions, otherwise, feel free.
Just a point of clarification. So are we still on track to finish the East Millstone design by early August? Is that a rough timeline?
I think that's correct, yes.
Okay, so then the next steps, I believe, is then we would have to, I think there's some steps that we have to do for awarding the engineering contract then for the build phase if we want to continue. I believe we budgeted that for this year. And also then we'd have to start going out for bid. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So what are we looking, probably early September or to have that on the table for the September resolutions?
The proposals?
Yes.
Yeah, we can give you the proposals whenever you want between now and then.
Okay, I want to make sure that we keep this moving to get this project along also because I don't want Scott having to go out and buy extra duct tape for the for the
Right.
pump station that he's already been
Yeah.
using. So,
I think we're in good shape to go to bid, receive bids, and then while that's in, contracts are getting signed, then you can sort out how you want to handle the general services during construction.
okay. I don't foresee a problem with that, so we can talk offline after that, or you
Okay.
talk through Joe and have the plan in place, and Scott.
All right.
Okay. And I'm sure Mr. Bernstein will be busy with a couple comments as well on that. So with that, does anybody have any questions? One reminder is the high bay garage. I believe this is just the design phase because we're holding off temporarily due to the budget concerns. But again, we want the project to be ready, basically shovel ready or similar in this case, if for some or if things are better than we expect for the year. So, all right. With that, any other questions for regarding the projects? If there are none, then we will move on to the executive directory summary, which will be presented by, we'll start with Mr. Danielson.
Thank you, Chairman. And I want to thank all the board members for allowing me to present the status of the authority's operations of finance. It's certainly been interesting and lively at times. Okay, so the revenue report is attached for your reference. It's F1 revenue report Excel sheet. This is let me just bring to your attention, this is the first month. July is the first month of the, I'm sorry, we're reporting the first time for the fiscal year. We did receive $441,917 in revenue. If you were to compare that, it is a little low, and we are tracking these revenues on a weekly basis. The expense report is also attached in your packet at C expense report fiscal year end 2020. So our expenditures for year end expenditures, if you follow along with that, were $13,398,655.13, whereas we appropriated a little over $2 million less than that. So in year of review, almost the entire amount of that overage, the spending overage, was due to the MCUA bill, the New Brunswick sewer bill, and the Weston Canal Road damage, emergency damage cost. Encompass that entire cost. So that is actually compared to the overage of our revenue that we had over the year. So last year we brought in $363,716,000 over what we expected, and the net difference between that is 1.7 million and change. So they kind of even each other out a little bit. What we are doing though is we are working very hard with MCUA to get a reasonable scheduled billing amount. Eric and I and the staff are vigorously trying to get New Brunswick at the workshop table to come to an agreement on how we're going to formulate our bills and actually pay them. And the Weston Canal Road, you can't do anything about that. That broke, and we unbroke it. So next category is our cash position. That report is attached, and that report name is D-Cash Balance, May 2020 revised. And remember, those numbers are a month old because we don't get the bank statements for a month later.
Okay.
So our unrestricted net position is $1,846,675.01. Our restricted amount is $16,964,050.90, and designated is $3,141,703. So our net restriction is basically cash, so is designated, but unrestricted is just not assigned yet. I want to bring something to your attention that next meeting, these numbers are going to change drastically because we closed out several accounts under restricted with the Bank of New York, and we liquidated $5.3 million of cash that was ours, which was in the restricted category, and we're going to be moving it to designated category. So you're going to see restricted amount go down a lot, and the designated amount go up. And that's cash we could use for almost whatever we want, and that was simply being held for some of it over a decade, just sitting there not doing anything. So now we freed that up and we took the appropriate steps to get that done. Discussion items are COVID-19 status. The admin and engineering staff are still in a rotating schedule working from home and office. The maintenance staff continues to work at full staff and in a 2-crew model that show up and leave work in 30-minute differentials. I do think, Chairman, that we should talk about employees possibly traveling through or to banned states relative to the governor's executive order and recommendation for self-quarantining. We have to navigate the other executive orders as well, but it is possible that employee travels to or through a banned state and then be required to not go to work and not go around other people for the quarantine period. So I don't know if that's something, Eric, we should work out offline or during a meeting, but I just wanted to bring it up for consideration and or discussion.
If the commissioners have any question regarding same, for those of you who may or may not be aware, in an attempt to tamp down the spikes that are starting to appear all over the country, including to some extent here in New Jersey, the governor has ostensibly entered into a more than advisory, less than mandatory order, though not an executive order per se, indicating that travel to and from now 19 banned states as of this afternoon would require self-quarantine for 14 days. I think that Mr. Danielson and I, in coordination with Mr. Nacero and the chairman, should probably talk about this further and see where we go from there in terms of the workload and to the input of Ms. Roach as well.
Yeah, I certainly think that because I think New York went to an extreme that I think is going to have attorneys busy for the next foreseeable future also. So I think we need some clarification on some items before we bring this, but let's certainly have this conversation before the August meeting and bring it to the board with some solutions, and hopefully pray that some of these quarantines can start being lifted. But given that Delaware is now on the list, it seems that it's starting to get closer and closer.
And the possibility of Connecticut.
Yeah, so just don't leave home. That's essentially the unfortunately the message lately. But yes, thank you. We'll bring back some more information to the board so that we have more clarity and not having you blindsided with this information.
Okay. Moving on to escrow maintenance accounts. Tonight we have resolutions for 2 performance bonds, 2 maintenance bonds, 1 site bond, and 1 inspection escrow transaction. We are vigorously trying to close out whatever bonds we have available to us, and that's tonight's result is we're getting rid of 5 performance/maintenance site bonds. They are totaling $221,788.31. The connections for the month are 1, That's been confirmed with finance and Scott Macero's operations report. The 2021 budget, as you know, the state already approved our budget, signed off on it, and we voted on the last three instruments of that budget, and we now move on to getting signatures and sending that to the state and then finalizing that. The continuation of waiving interest fees. So you had previously voted on and authorized the 3-month period waiving interest fees. To date, the last month in June, we waived $16,253.73 in fees. Year to date, not the same as 2019, was $59,035.63. We need to discuss and/or vote tonight if we're going to continue that for another 3 months or not. I will say this, that relative to people not paying their fees or their bills, when it comes to tax sale, the tax sale residences are those which are debts that were generated in 2019. So for us, this year, any tax sales that may go on the auction block have nothing to do with the COVID. Rather, they were 2019 debt. I always say that because some might be confused how this works and think you're going to prevent tax sales, and empathy for the COVID, but this year will not be the case relative to tax sales.
So I guess the question is, before we continue on with this, is was there any guidance from the state that's come down so far or from the governor's office on this? No? We were doing this on our own accord.
So it is state law that allows us to do this. And you should know, on a Somerset County elected officials phone call today, someone actually it was Franklin that brought it up, Bob Warnlocker, on guidance of forgiveness. No one had any, but it was said by somebody on that call that the Division of Local Government Services is expected this week to release guidance. I'm keeping my eye on it. If I receive that guidance, I will forward that to everybody. But the question stands, does the authority want to continue waiving the interest fees? And for how long?
Our next billing cycle is due in August, is that correct? Yeah, so I would not recommend the full 3 months, but instead, under some guidance, possibly we might want to consider an additional month, not to extend into the next billing cycle, but give a little bit of extra time. And I do apologize, I'm not trying to hide off camera, my camera keeps moving. So with that, is there any questions or discussions that people want to have on this? I'm curious about input from everybody. Okay, I see a head shake no from Commissioner Barrison. I'm going to go around the screen then. Commissioner Ford, any concerns with extending possibly for another month?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Tawari, if you're still with us. Okay. And Commissioner DeVoe? Okay. Commissioner Alcazar? Okay. Commissioner Schmidt, any problems?
I think going on a month-by-month basis is an appropriate way to go.
Okay. All right, so with that,
We need a motion.
yep. With that, so we would need a motion to approve a 1-month extension of waiving of interest fees on delinquent bills related, delinquent sewer fees. Is that correct?
Yes, through the end of August, through August 31, 2020.
Okay. So is there a motion?
So moved.
That was Commissioner Barrison. Is there a second?
DeVoe, second.
With that, roll call, please.
Mr. Ambarenson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe? Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tawari?
I think we might have lost Mr. Tawari.
Okay. So then, Mr. Alcazar
Yes.
and Chairman Galtieri.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Tawari is not currently participating as of 7/28.
Due to technical difficulties with his connection.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. So we have the guidance to do a 1-month extension, and we'll revisit as we progress, and hopefully this starts to let up. Moving on.
Okay. So my next one is Somerset Street Pump Station. CDM proposal was accepted. I'm looking for, do we have a resolution?
We do.
Yeah.
Which number is that on the agenda?
15.
I see it as 15.
15.
15.
Okay. All right, very good. All right, so we'll be voting on that. Southbound Brook, we did receive a quarterly invoice. We did have staff verify the list of residents and lots included on that. We processed that for payment, and that invoice is being completed tonight at tonight's meeting. The attorney is in full discussions with Southbound Brook regarding updating and finalizing and modernizing an appropriate agreement with the borough, which has never been accomplished in the past. From my understanding, it's quite a static document. And Eric, do you have anything to report on that specifically?
No, we will be reaching out for Mr. Solomon to try to set something up to see if we can move this project along.
Okay. The memo of understanding with the unions is finalized and signed.
Yes.
Do you have another step involved with that, finalizing the contract?
A contract was proposed, draft contract was put together in the last few days, circulated to Chairman Galtieri, Commissioner Barrison, and to Mr. Danielson for their comments. I will give you a certain amusing response. We got an email today from the union telling us that they were going to start doing the same thing, and we told them it's already done, and we expect to send them to something to them shortly.
Okay, I do apologize. I must have missed that email, so I will go back and read that between tonight and tomorrow and give any
Well,
comments.
what the email is, Mr. Chairman, is the draft collective bargaining.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if you and Mr. Embarrasson and Mr. Danielson will take a look at it in your copious free time and get back to me, I would be deeply appreciative.
Okay, I will not hold that up anymore. I do apologize for missing that.
You're not the only one at the moment.
Okay, so everybody should know that the the personnel committee did an excellent job, where the board should be happy and the union should be happy, or otherwise stated, no one should be happy, which is proof that you did a good job. New Brunswick sewer bill. So this is going to be a tricky issue to continue to manage. We still have not gotten any workable response back from them. We haven't moved forward. I'm personal friends with the city attorney. I did text them. They said we were going to get a response. That was last week. They have not got a response. We did send the sewage, Franklin Township Sewage Authority's estimated payment to them, but our estimated payment. However, Eric is going to need to be involved a lot on this issue. They're just not being responsive, and the clock seems to be ticking month after month after month. They're claiming COVID is reducing their ability to communicate. I don't get it. But I do know they furloughed a lot of people. But, depending on what they agree to down the road, they may fight for the difference. I don't know. So, Eric, you want to report on your end of this issue?
Well, as the commissioners know, this has been an ongoing situation that has gone through 2 executive directors to the current. The prior executive director was in communication along with staff engineer with people in New Brunswick with the hope that that would move forward. It sort of got to a point and sort of reached stalemate. As Mr. Danielson has indicated, he has reached out for certain individuals at the city on the hope that we can start to resurrect this. But I will tell you that this agreement is almost as old as the city of New Brunswick. So the hope is that maybe Mr. Danielson and his talents can at least get New Brunswick to the table, so to speak, so we can start to have a conversation about what we can do to sort of address the current situation as we continue to move more and more flow out of New Brunswick and into our own stations and on to MCUA separately.
I also had Christian type up a summary of this issue from beginning to end. He typed up a wonderful, complete, comprehensive summary of it, sent it to me. Eric, you have that? I assume that you are equally satisfied with that summary as I am?
Better than some of the summaries I get from my people. I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, that this be circulated. I'll circulate it to the commissioners under personal and confidential, unless you have a problem.
Nope, that's fine.
So that it's not a public record, and we will deal with it accordingly, maybe after the chair is reviewed and get back to me with some thoughts.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on, the archiving of documentation. So new to me is the storage area above the garage. I think it's Scott's secret office. Like a big lounge up there. I mean, we're going to put a pool table up there. It's the biggest room I've seen. So, but it's mostly filled with documentation. Yeah, I mean, we can build a gym up there. It's nice. But there's engineering plans, site plans, there's billing documents, there's memos. There's a gateway computer with 32 megabytes of RAM in that in that office.
Impressive, Scott.
Gigabyte hard drive. So
my thing.
So I mean, we simply can't get rid of documents even if we were allowed to, because some of them is just, it's responsible to keep them. So, Christian is going to research a commercial digital archiving company that could handle the engineering documents, which we should start with first, and then figure out what accompanying and related documents have to go with those engineering documents. And then the rest of the normal documents, we have to decide, do we, you know, is there any value, or do we put them on the document retention schedule and ask the state for authority to destroy them? Our priority will be to first archive and preserve engineering and site plan documents, so Scott and his crew and our engineering staff can reference them. And then we'll go on the other. We will need significant involvement by Eric Bernstein, quite significant involvement when it does come time to the document retention schedule and dealing with the DCA giving us authorization to destroy documents. We want to be very careful, and I don't know which one of you is considered the custodian, document custodian, but whoever it is, they're on the hook.
Joe, when in my past life working for Union County, we had all kinds of documents, and there was actually a state guidance document that told us how long we were required to keep certain types of documents. 10 years for this, 15 for that, 25 for that. Are you familiar with, or is there some document that you're aware of that the state has requirements for certain types of documents?
Well, not only am I familiar with Oprah, it's probably because of me. Eric Bernstein's law firm does a lot of Oprah work. I've been a witness and a defendant through his office for other agencies.
Not related, those of you to the Franklin Township Sewerage Authority, so let's all. You know,
Right.
These are, I'm not talking about Oprah. This is a different document.
Commissioner, we are familiar with the regulations established by the state library, which put together along with DCA, the necessary parameters relative to the retention and destruction of documents. So yes, we are. And if any commissioner would like to see, we'll try to find the latest document, but it's the state library, strangely enough, that establishes the guideline for that in conjunction with DCA.
Yeah, I mean, even if you told the date that you can get rid of documents, you still want to go through the process of getting the formal approval of them to destroy them. If you don't, you're expected to maintain them. Is that correct, Eric?
That is correct.
Okay. So at some point in the future, I'm going to continue reporting on the archiving documentation, because that'll be a project in progress. But at some point, we're going to run into an expense that you will be asked to consider. We held a shredding event recently. I'm sorry, the shredding event. 726 cars were processed. I had no idea it was that popular. Equally, if not more popular, was our hazmat event, which was successful for the people who dropped off all their hazardous material. It was unsuccessful for the authority, and I think we should discuss this either online and or offline. That same hazmat company continues to spill and contaminate and damage the authority's property in a manner that would indicate they don't have a lot of respect or value for our cleanliness and our level of hygiene of the environment. When Scott arrived at work that Monday morning, the place was a disaster again. And I say again because it's my understanding, it's being reported to me that this hazardous hazmat company has contaminated our property in the past, and those stains are still on our building. If you look at the garage up top, you'll see splatter marks, splatter stains, because they were so reckless and careless. So it's the board's prerogative to consider any number of options, a offline conversation with the freehold director or the business administrator, or a strongly worded memo, or you simply don't entertain hosting them again. But I'm not guiding you either way. I'm just bringing it to your attention. You should have a discussion and talk about it at some point.
I think with this, our municipal liaison and myself can have a conversation with the freeholder director and the freeholders and basically express a concern that we maintain a clean facility, and that we are doing a favor to the county of hosting it in an area that doesn't impact residents too much, but we expect some sort of respect for the property and the facility that our employees maintain on a daily basis. So I think we have that conversation, see how that goes, and then we do have some time before we have to say yes or no to next year's collection of household hazardous waste. And we don't want to stress Scott out too much because, again, he does maintain a clean facility. So it's not fair to him or any of the employees to come into that. So let's see where the conversation goes, and then we'll emphasize that not only should it be maintained, but that it shouldn't take us calling numerous times to get things cleaned up. Last year was an unacceptable amount of time that passed, and this year, yes, it was within 3 days, but it was still 3 days that the employees had to avoid certain areas so that the trucks weren't impacted also.
I want to consider holding a performance bond.
Could look at that also.
Well, if I may, just you're gonna want to speak to people sooner than later. Usually, right shortly after the last event, they get in touch with us for the upcoming year's date.
Okay. So,
just so you know.
Yep. So we will we'll find time to get in touch with everybody shortly, because I know you're right. We are coming to we're towards the end of the season actually for the collection. So because the fall they really die off, and then they ramp down, and then they ramp up early into the spring. So we'll talk to them very shortly.
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
So is it the contamination caused by the careless handling of the materials that the people bring in, or is it the crew that is not taking proper precautions to instruct the people how to deposit them or handle them in a safety and clean manner?
If you're asking me personally, I'd say, so there was some sloppiness on behalf of the residents bringing their hazardous waste, open paint cans in their car, taking them out, spilling them. But the majority of the spills was allowed by the hazmat company, Radiac, who they put plastic down on the parking lot. But then obviously somebody needs to maintain that plastic throughout the whole event. If the plastic rips and you don't maintain it, it's going through into the parking lot. And as the pictures went out, Will had saw it was a nightmare. It was a real disaster. Excuse me. So really on the company.
I think I suggest if we do this again next year, we have to have a stipulation with the county or the company that they would be liable for cleanup expenses after the fact, whatever we incur. I think there has to be some penalty or consequence for such behavior.
Well, so to be fair, they do come and clean it up. I mean, we haven't had to pay to clean it up or anything, but last year it took a significant amount of time for Scott to get in touch with somebody just to get them out here and then clean it up. This year they were more responsive in 3 days, but even 3 days is too long because that's hazardous materials that we do have storm drains in the area that, you know, anything could possibly run off and get into there, especially with us being in the river, right on the riverbed also. So it's fortunately we don't incur the cost of that, but to Joe's point, possibly we could look at a performance bond that, you know, if you don't leave it the way you found it and it's meticulously maintained, then we have to then we hold it one way or another. But let's start the conversation now and see where it comes. Yes.
Why are they not be required to clean it up prior to them leaving at the end of the event?
That's
Right.
a good question also.
Yeah.
Right, so that was my point. Number one, they should have never left the property. Number two, they probably should have reported that to DEP as a spill. The fire department, if you spill a half a quart of motor oil, you have to call the DEP. Number three, you don't know what spilled on our lot. Number four, you don't know that they cleaned it up. Because unless you know what the spill is, you don't know you absorbed it. Did you wash it away? Is there residual compounds? And number five, what you do know is Scott's crews, they work in that area. Very serious. They didn't put down absorbent pigs or speedy dry. They did not go through, you know, my fire department, we're a hazmat company. They did not do anything hazmat related. They showed up with a power washer, may have soap in it, and a shop vac. Is that correct?
That's actually a good point made by Joe. It's actually the box during the hen house cleaning up their own mess, and then who's determining that it's actually completely cleaned up?
They know better.
Well, we did make sure that they did have pig dams around all the storm drains in our parking lot before the cleaning process did start. They had 55-gallon drums, which they were, as the guy was power washing with a degreaser and stuff like that, those type products, they were sucking it up with shop vacs and dumping the shop vacs into the 55-gallon drums and sealing them. That was something I did make sure was happening, that it wasn't going down our storm drain. I did inform Carl Houck, because he is responsible for all the stormwater here, let him know what we were doing. He was okay with that process. As far as they should have never left the site, yeah, I agree. But by the time the process of the event is done, our guys ain't getting at it. Our guys that work it are not leaving there till like 5:30, 6 o'clock at night from early morning. Okay, and it's a different crew for this company that comes in and does the cleaning. The company that's there all day is actually doing the removal, collection of the hazardous waste. They're not prepared to clean up the parking lot, if you know what I mean. And if they were, they would be there past midnight, I'm sure.
Okay, so we'll take steps to try to mitigate this, and you know, if we don't like the answers, we can always say no.
Agreed.
Well, yeah, you control it.
Yeah, I mean, we did the municipality a favor, and it was a request between the police department and the municipality as a whole that when they tried doing it at the municipal building lot, it shut down DeMont Lane. Same thing as the paper shredding, and we did it so that we kept things out of a residential area. But at the same time, if the company can't keep stuff clean and maintain our property, then we can always say no. So,
Chairman, would you like Scott and I to draft a debriefing memo for you, to maybe help you with a conversation you might have, or share it with Bob Warnlocker should they shift from us to the town? Memorialize our history experience.
Scott, do you have more than what was in the emails that you shared with everybody?
No, and this conversation last year as well.
Okay, so I think we have enough talking points. We're prepared with it. If we need more information, we'll always circle back. But I know you guys have enough on your plate already, so we can handle with what you've already documented.
Okay, moving on. Somerset County Water Treatment Agreement Plan. So the county is assessing, gathering, and analyzing sewer system and septic system throughout the county, and also assessing vacant, potentially developable land, and trying to predict needs, development, resources, and capacities in the future. They provided us a starting point, documentation of spreadsheets and documents. I'll say to the commissioners, if you have 3 days where you have absolutely nothing to do, feel free to pile through that data. It's about as interesting as flow data and an insurance policy. But what is significant to this, Christian and I sat down, is this could have an impact on Franklin Township. For example, it could be utilized if the numbers don't go in our favor. Possibly a developer's remedy lawsuit could lean upon that. So it is important that we stay on top of it. So what we did is we reviewed the data ourselves. Christian did another excellent summary review of it. We attended the meeting on June 30th. It's a county meeting where all stakeholders are involved. Christian and I are in current communication with the Township Planning Director, Mark Healy, and the authority in the town are going to be in agreement when we do when we submit our final numbers or our final agreement in concurrence with the county. I think it's important that we look out for our township interests. They are assessing everything from septic system fields, sections of our township, our pump stations, our affordable housing, our senior housing, multi-units, single units, and also our capacity to deliver to MCUA. That being said, Scott brought up a good point. Christian brought it to my attention. We haven't recently, anyway, did an assessment of our capacity versus flow of our 3 crossings of Raritan River that go to MCUA. And that's important to know because regardless of our flow data and potential speculative demand in the future, that all may mean nothing if we don't have no Raritan River capacity for it. So for long-term planning purposes, the two are very related. Somerset County data analysis, and we have to do an analysis of our crossing, let's call it crossing capacity. But so it could be, and that capacity is not just the sum of all 3 crossings. We actually have to do each pipe separately because different pump stations feed each one.
Joe, before you continue with that, Joe Gamel, if I'm not mistaken, CME did some work for us at the North Crossing as part of the Marcy Street. Is that correct? I think before Phil Haberkovich left, that we did capacity monitoring there, didn't we?
We just looked at the metering chambers and capacity, if there was any surcharging. We do have, as part of Marcy Street, pursuing a proposal from CSL for doing pre and post metering to see the effectiveness, but we did not do a capacity analysis of the crossing.
Okay, thank you. All right, sorry, Joe. Thank you.
All right. So at some point, Christian, what's the deadline for the county submittal?
End of the month.
End of July. Oh yeah, so we are. And we'll have our submittal on time, and we're going to represent the authority in the township very well. If no one has any questions, I'm going to move on. So it was, Christian brought to my attention that the last resolution that the board did to authorize signatures for DEP permits application, it had a person's name on it, and I agreed with his recommendation and gave it to Eric Bernstein to modify that resolution, which we will do tonight, to eliminate a name of a person and instead replace it with the position of chairman of the board or the chairman's designee. We'll be voting on that after this. Next item, so all you commissioners have iPads, but after they got them deployed and they were all working, we had a mishap where one of the board members changed the password on the account that you all use on the iPad. So I need to collect those iPads, reset the password, and give them out again so you all can use them. So I'm going to be contacting you all individually to get a hold of it. If I have to drive, I don't care how far away you live or you are, I'll come and get it and help you out. But the iPads are a good thing to have because right in the iPad you can get your email and you can get your Dropbox, which saves April a lot of work and just very convenient that it's in there. I mean, we tend to also email with some restrictions, but the iPad is a secure, convenient way for you to get your documents, communicate to and from the authority, and your Zoom and your go-to meetings to participate in. Okay, so the next item on the list is the union matter / admin / healthcare. Chairman, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so this is more just, Eric, correct me, what action needs to be taken by the board, but this is that we did offer benefits to the union to help offset some of the expenses that they face each for their portion of it. So of course we would naturally want to extend it to the admin staff, but it's I'm not sure, Eric, do we need the board to give the nod or okay, I'm getting the nod. So the board would have to authorize to extend the same for our non-union employees. And as a reminder,
at the August meeting.
Okay, so given that we don't have the CBA signed, it's not enacted yet. It would be retroactive probably to the June 1st. Also, as we did with the union employees, but we'll present that as a formal resolution to the board. But this is more just an FYI. And there's, what do we have? I believe the last count is roughly 10 non-union employees. So this is 10 employees that would be impacted. Again, Brian had, before he departed, worked to include this in the budget, so it's not as if it's a surprise to the budget also. And especially now, if we can help our employees a little bit with healthcare, we certainly want to help them out as much as we can. So I think this is something good that we can do to help our employees further. With that, I don't think there's anything more that you need on that, correct, Joe? Again, nothing will go into effect until both the resolutions passed by the board and also the CBA is signed and finalized. So neither side of our staff will benefit from this, yeah.
And that will be retroactive to June 1st, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Except for certain people.
That has a goatee. Oh wait, Scott's got a goatee also. So wait a minute. We'll rephrase that. Don't be
a schlemazel.
All right, let's move along.
Or schnorrer.
Sure.
Is the last item on our list, is that for our executive session?
That's up to you, Chairman. It's the discussion on the appointment for interim director.
Yep, let's do that in executive session. We'll discuss that further, and then we'll take care of that after executive session.
Okay. So I'll stop my recording of the go-to meeting once you vote to go into executive session. Are you doing that now, or
no? We'll do it. We'll get through everything else because then we can let Joe and Howard enjoy some dinner or something. So we'll finish up what we need them for and let them go for the evening. I see the smile, so I know they're being appreciative of that.
Joe or Howard, was there anything on these projects you wanted to add in or edit or contradict?
No, nothing was presented as accurate.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add either.
Okay. Thank you. All right, with that, anything else for the executive director's report? You're good?
Sure.
Okay. Any questions on the executive director's report? If not, Scott, do you want to give us a top level summary on what's going on?
Sure, I'll do my best. Month of June of 2020. Some important detail here. Griggstown Pump Station. We had a failure to one of our mixers, and we have a dual wet well system over there. So one of the mixers had failed, and we had earlier in the year, you may have recalled from some of my past reports, we did a demo of an aeration system that basically adds dissolved oxygen to the water, which helps keep your sulfide levels down, as well as it prevents the grease from solidifying in the well. This unit was in the previous months and worked very well. So we opted, due to the cost variation of replacing the mixer versus this unit, we went with the Wet Well Wizard, and it's been installed by the authority staff and working well. We did the routine flushing of the force mains at both the Stonehenge and Sunflower Pump Station. And you may recall last year we did this. We came up with an idea to use our jet truck, made up some fittings costing like about $100. And we were able to flush our 3-inch and 4-inch force mains that leave the pump stations. Past year, when we had a company come out and do the same pig cleaning, it cost the authority to do both pump stations $15,000. So we saved the authority a lot of money by doing it ourselves, and it's done within six hours in a day. So that's very good right there. We had Cummins Power Systems come out. Both Wildflower and Stonehenge was having ATS issues, automatic transfer system, switchgear issues. They came out, troubleshooted the problems, and made the repairs on site. Rodney Avenue's stormwater system has been fully cleaned. As you know, as part of the agreement with that whole, when Rodney Avenue was built, we have basically a pre-treatment system before it goes out to the brook. It's something that the authority has to maintain because it's on our property. Our staff had did that, cleaned all the basins, everything. Somerset Street, not much there other than the rental company that we're renting the bypass pump from, Pumping Services. They came out to perform their routine service on their pump that we're renting. And we did a lot of painting at a bunch of the various pump station sites, between the doors, the steel doors, and the safety bollards around the stations. Just some outside maintenance. All right. Under odor and corrosion control, the Voca performed monthly service and inspection like always. And we did make some feed rate adjustments as we saw some slight spikes happening in different areas due to the wastewater temperature rising as everything's getting warmer. We had no odor complaints for the month. Various inspections were performed by our crew, as well as doing manhole inspections for the upcoming road paving projects through the township. Gravity sewer flushing. As you know, this is a 2-year township-wide program. It's been suspended for the past almost 4 months. 22nd, I had made the decision to start flushing our gravity sewers again. With the knowledge of knowing our staff has top-notch PPE to use. So we gravity sewers again. Everybody's been made aware of the extra precautions they need to take. We flushed and cleaned over 20,000 feet of main sewer as we started, like I said, later in the month, bringing our overall goal, 58% of our overall goal, which started date back to January of 2019. Again, we had that 3.5 to 4 month hiatus, but I didn't see any reason for pushing it off any further.
Scott, with that, just a question on that. How far, the obvious answer is we're about 3 to 4 months behind. How far do you think we are fully behind? And some of the problem spot areas, did you see a significant issue of concern by delaying some of the maintenance, or did the system hold up pretty well with the delay?
So some of what we call our trouble spots, we did have to address routinely of this the 3 to 4 month period of COVID. So those areas were fully maintained. Right now, where we are, we're seeing a normal level of what we would see in the normal process of cleaning.
Okay. So roughly, you'll still be about 3 months behind schedule, but because of this, but we're not making up time or anything. Okay.
Correct. And depending on how scheduling goes, if we get 2 flushers going again, two crews going on flushing, we can make good headway and catch up pretty quick.
And let's just clarify something here. So Scott, correct me if I'm wrong. The average goal is to do the system once every 5 years because you're an average system. Your goal is once every 2 years. So we're well within the standards, just not the Scott and Sarah standards. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Commissioner, Scott's made the judgment call to go back, and that's in order to maintain the system because he knows that best under regular regulations we're still within it. So there's not a concern of it that we have to notify DEP or anything. It's more of we know where it should be maintained at. It just was for the protection of our crews during this time.
And just so you understand too, is we've been seeing a lot more resident concerns and complaint calls, and I believe a lot of that's due to the part that a lot more people are home. And what we're seeing is a lot of that heavy rag stuff being flushed down the toilets and the drains. So, as we're flushing, we're seeing that. We see it coming into the pump stations. So I really didn't feel that we should put this off any longer. It's only going to cause us more headaches down the road, and that's where we are.
You can't blame that resident that moved from Wildflower Ridge though out to Weston Canal anymore. I think he's
assured me that. He's assured me he stopped doing that.
So okay.
All right. Also during the month, we assisted the East Franklin Fire Department. They were having some issues with their floor drains and their bays backing up and causing some horrific odors in the building. Basically, they were all backed up and they needed to be vacked out and flushed clean, which we did. We did it for them probably about 3 years ago. ESA's easements, all the easements throughout that we maintain, they usually maintain twice a year. So our crews went out with the big brush hog machine, cut all the easements, as well as inspected all the manholes that run through those easements, looking for any type of eye issues, blockages, stuff like that. Everything was fine. We had to excavate and repair a 4-drain fitting for one of the E1 grinders at number 5 Washington Avenue in the Griggstown section of town. Our backflow were all tested and passed at the pump stations and the maintenance garage. Miscellaneous, you guys pretty much, we talked about Operation Shred Day, County Hazmat Day. Our staff replaced 4 toilets at the main office facility as well as the maintenance garage facility. They were original toilets. They were really residential toilets. They didn't work too well. So we replaced those in-house. Talked about CDM Smith did have the borings done for the high bay garage extension in the back. And as I said, we've been getting a lot more homeowner complaints, a lot more than I want to see. But what I understand and what I'm seeing is that these residents are home. I think maybe things that they've ignored in the past, being home, they're outside more. They're saying, oh, I got a missing clean out cap here, or broken this here, broken that. And we've tried to help them where we can. Safety, there were no accidents or injuries for the month of June. As Joe stated, our staff is still working on a half-hour differential. Seems to be working very well. And connections for the month, we had 1 connection. Total to date is 1 month as of starting from June 1st fiscal year, and anticipated for the fiscal year is 225.5.
So Christian sweating that 224 to go over 11 months?
Shouldn't be an issue.
All right. It is not normal times also, so we have to keep that in mind. All right. Any questions for Scott for operations? All right. Seeing none. Connections report we just got. Any special projects to report? Okay. Committee reports, negotiations and personnel. So as we mentioned, the MOA is signed, and now we're on to the CBA, and then we'll have for everybody the resolution for the non-union staff also. And then we'll also talk about the interim executive director during executive session. Municipal liaison, anything?
Nothing specific to report, Chairman.
Okay. Construction, we've gotten updates. Anything additional that we need to add?
No, we did chat about a potential schedule for Commerce Street. Maybe we'll talk or make a decision next month.
Yep. So this is what Joe's referring to is Commerce Street is next on Scott's list of ones to improve. Rightfully so. It is one of the older stations that needs a rebuild. But let's get the thought was to give the staff a little breather and get through the other 4, 5 projects they're working on right now before taking on something else. So we'll revisit it to start design phases in August or September, but it's on the radar to get done, especially since we budgeted for it. And then safety looks like no accidents, so that's good. So that's our committee reports. All right. Next up, I've got the consent agenda. So the approval of resolutions will be done by consent agenda. All of the items listed below are considered to be of routine nature, thereby requiring 1 motion and 1 second for all items. If any member wishes to remove an item or has a question on an item in the consent agenda, please advise me at this time which resolution needs to be handled separately or that you have a question on, and we will address it and vote on it separately. We have resolution number 0707-2020-1 for payroll account $153,999.35. Resolution 0707-2020-2 operating expense account $183,285.91. Resolution 0707-2020-3 renewal and replacement fund of $193,274.25. Resolution 0707-2020-4 for the North Track crossing of $3,321.50. And resolution number 0707-2020-5 for the escrow account of $7,085. If there are no questions or no item needs to be pulled separately, then the next step would be a motion to approve.
Motion.
Do we need to make clarification?
DeVoe, second.
Chairman, point of order for a second.
Okay.
To the consent agenda resolutions?
These are the consent agenda.
Never mind. I'm going to come back at you after.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Embarrasson and a second from Commissioner DeVoe. Can we do roll call, please?
Mr. Embarrasson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tewari?
Mr. Tewari dropped, so is
I'll go
offline.
back to Mr. Alcazar?
Yeah.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. All right, I have on my list, we can skip resolution -6 because we already did it, -7 because we did it. So we are on to resolution number 0707-2020-8, authorizing the execution of permits and applications to the Department of Environmental Protection. And this was with the uses of titles for positions rather than a specific name. Is there a motion?
Right. But, Chairman, if I may, so I don't want the board members to be misled. The original packet had the incorrect mixed up resolution that I spoke of earlier that delayed the meeting. So if you look at the original packet, I don't know if you may have received by email or Dropbox, it's titled DEP authorized signature, but the content involved union matters. And we have since sent out a replacement resolution. Is that correct, April?
The two,
It's in Dropbox. The correct version of resolution is simply authorizing the chairman and chairman's designee to apply their signature to DEP permits and applications.
All right, for simplistic purposes, the resolution, because it's short, is whereas the Sewage Authority of the Township of Franklin, the authority of public body, corporate, and politic of the state of New Jersey was created pursuant to the Sewage Authority laws and JSA 4014A-1 for the purposes of managing, operating, maintaining, improving certain sewage authority facilities and apparatus located in the township. And whereas the authority from time to time must submit applications and permits for approval of plans and specifications for the construction of sanitary sewers in the Township of Franklin to the New Jersey State Department of Environmental Protection. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Sewage Authority of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, that the chairman of the authority or the chairman's designee or the new executive director of the authority, if designated by the chairman, be and are hereby authorized to execute on behalf of the authority to the State of New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection all applications and permits for approval of plans and specifications for the construction of sanitary sewers in the Township of Franklin. So specifically, it says the chairman or chairman's designee or executive director of the authority. That is the change. And I do see where there is the mistake in the original packet. So with that reading of it and clarification, do we still have the motion and second?
Motion.
Ford.
Second, Barson.
Okay. With that, if there's no other questions, then roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Amberison?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. Moving on, I now have resolution number 0707-2020-9 to return maintenance bond number S303270 dated in year 2017 in the amount of $7,083.71 relative to block 90, lot 1 and lot 2 located at 1340 Hamilton Street to 1340 Hamilton Street LLC. Is there a motion?
Motion Ford.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Amberison?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. All right, moving on, resolution number 0707-2020-10 to return maintenance bond number PB 114-99801-603-M dated in year 2017 in the amount of $8,582.25 relative to block 424.02, lot 21, 22, and 24 located on Cedar Grove Lane to Rook Cedar Grove Lane Properties LLC. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second Ford.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Amberison?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. Moving on, resolution number 0707-2020-11 to return performance bond number 13BCSHG3783 dated in year 2015 in the amount of $135,010 to relative to block 88-02, lot 36.09 to 36.11, located at 22 and 24 Roosevelt Avenue to Frank A. Greek and Son Incorporated, DBA F. Greek Development. Is there a motion?
Motion, Barson.
Is there a second?
Second DeVoe.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Amberison?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
And and Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. Moving on, resolution number 0707-2020-12 to return site bond number S-318858 dated in year 2018 in the amount of $23,887.60 relative to block 182 lot 1.01, 3.01, 5-11 and 63-69 located at 510 Hamilton Street to Recon Services LLC. Is there a motion?
Motion Ford.
Is there a second?
Second, Unbarson.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar,
Yes.
Mr. Ambarenson,
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe,
Yeah.
Ms. Ford,
Yes.
and Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. Moving on, resolution number 0707-2020-13 to return performance bond number S-303270 dated in year 2016 in the amount of $7,224.75 relative to block 90 lot 1 and 2 located at 1340 Hamilton Street to 1340 Hamilton LLC. Is there a motion?
Motion Ford.
Is there a second?
Second, DeVoe.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar,
Yes.
Mr. Ambarenson,
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe,
Yeah.
Ms. Ford,
Yes.
and Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. All right, we've already done the adoption of the 2020-2021 budget. So moving on to resolution number 0707-2020-15, authorizing the authority chair and authority secretary to execute an agreement with CDM Smith Incorporated to provide professional engineering services as to design and public bidding associated with the Somerset Street Pump Station rehabilitation project. Is there a motion?
Motion Ford.
Is there a second?
Second,
Second,
Unbarson.
DeVoe.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar,
Yes.
Mr. Ambarenson,
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe,
Yeah.
Ms. Ford,
Yes.
and Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. All right, as I've just been handed a note from our attorney, virtually next time for the bond returns, even though we don't have too many, hopefully, we can do that on the consent agenda. But thank you, everybody, for your patience on this. I believe we only have one item for executive session. Is that correct? And so this should be pretty short, unless there's something else that I missed throughout this discussion.
One item, Mr. Danielson.
Excuse me?
Just one
One
item.
item.
You both talked at the same time.
Oh, okay. We only have one item for the executive session. Is that correct?
It is, yes, Chairman.
Okay. So this should be pretty quick. It's just to give the commissioners an update. And with that, I don't believe we will need Howard, Joe Kamel, or I think Scott actually gets to sign off a little early tonight also. With that, so the one item, Mr. Attorney, that is.
This is a motion to go into executive session, Mr. Chairman, to discuss the position of interim executive director. We're going to ask Mr. Danielson to waive his price notice since he has not received one, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that correct, Mr. Danielson?
That's correct, yeah, that way.
Okay, we have noted the waiver. This is a motion to go into executive session, Mr. Chairman, pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12B8 personnel and 10:4-12B7 attorney-client privilege related to the position of interim executive director. Formal action may or may not be taken at the conclusion of the meeting. I need a motion, a second.
Is there a motion?
Motion, Unbarson.
Is there a second?
Second, DeVoe.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar,
Yes.
Mr. Van Barrenson,
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe,
Yes.
Ms. Ford,
Yes.
and Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. All right.